If you guys have ever Googled what kind of Pokemon are you, you will first be greeted with this wonderful theme song.
What kind of Pokemon are you? How do you do the things you do?
Followed by a whole bunch of supposed personality quizzes that will tell you what kind of Pokemon you are. I thought it might be fun to, instead of creating a quiz, use a quiz that already exists and then assign Pokemon to each of the different types in that quiz. If you're familiar with personality quizzes at all, you've probably heard the term MBTI or Myers-Briggs come up at some point. In case you've never heard of it before, it's basically a personality quiz that ranks these like 4 different dichotomies of personality. You've got extroversion versus introversion, sensing versus intuition, thinking versus feeling, and perceiving versus judging. I'm not like a Myers-Briggs expert or anything, but I have watched a whole bunch of videos about it. And I also really like Pokemon, so I feel like I can combine these 2 things in this video. I'm gonna go through each Myers-Briggs type and tell you what Pokemon I think fits best with that type. In the comments, let me know what your type is and whether or not you think this Pokemon actually matches well with your personality. Let's start off with ESFJ, the CONSUL. Now, the stereotype of the CONSUL is kind of this like popular person, but actually cares about others. That kind of friend that when you come over, they're gonna make sure that they cook you dinner and that you're doing okay and that you're taken care of, and they talk to you about your feelings. Very like extroverted, outward focus, and making sure that everybody feels good. Mom, if you're watching this and you forgot what your type is, this one is your type. Anyways, ESFJ is definitely Pikachu. In the anime, Pikachu is very caring of all of the other Pokemon that are around it, and it also becomes very, very popular in general. I mean, like, everybody knows about Pikachu from the anime. It's just like the Pokemon. If you only know one Pokemon, it's gonna be Pikachu. Similar to ESFJ, ISFJ is very warm and caring. Also kind of like a mothery type. These are the people that are going to really take care of their friends. The difference between ESFJ and ISFJ though is ISFJ tends to be a little bit more protective of their group. Because they're introverted, they might have like a smaller social group compared to ESFJ, so they're gonna be very protective over the people that they have chosen to take in and care for. The perfect Pokemon for this personality type is Stoutland. Stoutland is extremely protective of the people that it cares about, but once it cares about you, which it does pretty easily, it will take care of you and make sure that you're good. ESFP is also known as the entertainer. These are the people who love the spotlight. They're willing to just go in front of a crowd and sing and dance and do whatever. They're very open to new experiences. They tend to be these like performer type of people who are like totally fine with just being in the spotlight and being like, this is who I am, I'm living my life, I'm just gonna go dive headfirst into whatever comes my way. The Pokemon that I think best matches this is Oricorio because A, it's a performer, it's very used to just like dancing around in front of people. Also, it's not like a fixed Pokemon where it just like stays in one form all the time. It does have all of these different dances that it can kind of switch into and try out. Similar to their extroverted brethren, ISFPs tend to be very adventurous. However, unlike ESFPs that do this in a more outgoing way, ISFPs tend to be obviously more introverted. So they might prefer hobbies such as art or writing or something that's a little bit more self-focused and doesn't rely as much on being social. The Pokemon I picked for this type is Lapras because A, Lapras is like the surf Pokemon, so it goes on all of these different adventures as it travels across the water. And also Lapras is an artist in its own right because it likes to sing, but it doesn't come off as like super social. It seems a little bit more shy and reserved, so I think it fits really well for ISFP. The next type is ESTP, or the entrepreneur. They tend to be very smart, energetic, and perceptive. They're the type of people that are gonna pick up on little things that are happening and be very, very honest about them, but they're so funny and charming that a lot of times people will just be like, oh, whatever, you know, it's so-and-so. They just are like that and just kind of laugh it off. The perfect Pokemon for this type, in my opinion, is Gengar because he is able to pull off all of these pranks and jokes, but everybody still really likes him. ISTP is known as the Virtuoso. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but anyways, they're bold, practical, and experimental. They like to try new things, but like in a practical, framework. So like, it'll be like, we want to see if this works. They're like testing it out, as opposed to being more like all over the place. They're like very more regimented. I had a lot of trouble figuring out what Pokemon would fit well for this type, but I ended up going with Melmetal because it's going around, it's trying different things, it's always just testing things like, is this metal, is this not, can I absorb this into my being? It like has that tendency to experiment, but it's doing it in a very practical way. ESTJ is known as the executive. They're organized, they're punctual, they tend to be like the leader of the pack, and they definitely get upset when other people don't follow their lead. Like in my personal experiences, ESTJs tend to be the most prone to anger. The best Pokemon to represent this type is Garchomp because it's very, very strong and hits very, very hard, and you do not want to face an angry Garchomp, just like you don't want to face an angry ESTJ. ISTJ, also known as the logistician, I hope I said that right, are very practical, fact-minded, and reliable. These are the type of people that probably have more of like a set schedule to their day. You know, you wake up at this time, you do this at this time. They tend to be pretty organized, and they tend to get things done. This was another one that I found really hard to pick a Pokemon, but I ended up going with Noctowl because it has a very regimented day. It isn't awake during the day, that's when it sleeps. And then every night it wakes up and it hunts and it does its thing. It's very like clock oriented, like it's got this like time and structure to its life, so I felt like it fit really, really well with this type. ENTJ, also known as the commander, is bold, imaginative, and strong-willed. They're the type of person that comes up with some awesome creative solution to a problem and has the confidence to say, hey, let's do that. The Pokemon that fits this best is Lucario. Lucario comes up with a lot of creative solutions to problems. For example, Lucario is a fighting type, and pretty much until Lucario, all fighting types were just like hitting things with their fists. But not Lucario. Lucario was like, hey, you know, we could just like use the energy that we have to fight in a different way. Like, what is this aura stuff? Why don't we use it? Like ENTJs, INTJs like to solve problems, but they do it in a more of a strategic planning way. Think of them kind of like these like super geniuses who like work out every single little detail and add them up to make something totally crazy awesome. The Pokemon that best fits with this type is Metagross. I mean, it's got like a ton of brains, it's super smart, it's basically like a supercomputer, and that's kind of how these people tend to work. Like, they are able to compute things that my brain is just like, how did you do that? ENTPs are known as the debater. They are smart, curious, and intellectual. These are the type of people who might play devil's advocate, where like you say one thing and they say another thing just to kind of see what happens. They also tend to propose some like really out of the box but obvious once you think of it solutions, which is much needed in our society. This one took me a while to figure out, but I ended up going with Gliscor. I feel like it has that quirkiness to be able to just be like, well, what if you did it this way? Plus the fact that it can travel on land and through the air gives it kind of this versatility to think outside the box in terms of how it's going to approach problems. INTP are practical, fact-minded, and reliable. Basically, INTPs will cultivate a specific skill set and then use that skill set in like a variety of creative ways in order to solve problems. They tend to have more like rules they follow, kind of like a code, so I figured the best Pokemon to represent this would be Greninja. Greninja's hidden ability allows it to change types, so it's very adaptable to different situations, even though it's just kind of like using the same thing every time. And I feel like personality-wise, considering Greninja has the word ninja in its name, it's probably gonna follow kind of like a set of rules. ENFJ is known as the protagonist because they're very often the main characters in stories. They're charismatic, they're inspiring, they tend to just like be natural leaders, like people just tend to follow them wherever they go. They also tend to be striving towards some sort of goal, so I figured the best Pokemon to represent this would be Cinderace, who is known to be kind of like a competitor. I mean, Cinderace is based on like soccer players or football players, if you're from a country that calls it football instead of soccer. And Cinderace just seems extremely charismatic, so I felt like it was the perfect fit. On to INFJ, the rarest personality type, also known as the advocate. INFJs are quiet observers of the world that's going on around them. They're kind of taking everything in, and they have this tendency to, like, when they're actually going to join in and actually be social, of kind of mimicking the different people that are around them to try to fit in and blend in so that they don't stand out too much. This can potentially come off as kind of manipulative, but really INFJs tend to have very idealistic goals and are just trying to make the world a better place most of the time. The perfect Pokemon for INFJ is Ditto because it literally is looking at the different things that are around it and transforming into those things. Plus, Ditto tends to be pretty rare. ENFPs are enthusiastic, creative, and sociable. This is also another type that tends to be pretty popular, and for good reason. They're a lot of fun to be around. ENFPs tend to be kind of wanderers. They try out a whole bunch of different things, but once they find something that they really deeply care about, they're gonna kind of strive towards that cause, which is why their personality type is also called the campaigner. My brother is this personality type, and a whole bunch of people I went to college with were also this personality type, mostly because I went to school to be a teacher, and a lot of the people I knew were teachers. Very common type for teachers. And anyways, the Pokemon that I think best represents this type is Sylveon. Sylveon can be a little all over the place sometimes, but once it figures out what it wants to accomplish, you know, you could see Sylveon just like going towards that goal and trying it and just doing the thing. Plus, Sylveon and Eevee and all the evolutions are just generally super popular, so it kind of fits well. And finally, onto INFP, which is my personality type, my dad's personality type, my boyfriend's personality type, a whole bunch of my friends' personality types. I just feel like we've all kind of clumped together. INFPs are known as the mediator. We tend to be very kind and altruistic. Like, I am absolutely horrible at lying. Like, it's just not something that I do well. We tend to be pretty introverted and look at the world in more of a metaphorical sense, very into our feelings. Because of our tendency to be very emotional, I ended up going with Gardevoir. Gardevoir is extremely in tune to the emotions of people and Pokemon, and its power set is just kind of magical, which is what INFPs can sometimes just feel like. I mean, like, is Gardevoir really creating black holes, or is it just kind of a metaphorical black hole? So that was all 16 MBTI personality types and the Pokemon that I think best fits with each. Let me know in the comments if the Pokemon I picked for your personality type matches well with who you are as a person, or if I'm totally off base. If you like this video, click that like button. If you want to see more, click subscribe. I post regular videos like this on Thursdays, I post Pokemon anime reactions on Sundays, and I live stream on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. EST. Bye!